Hello everyone, my name is Johnny5 and welcome to today's video. We are going to go over the Nodewar Revamp or Nodewar Reorganization, whatever you would like to call it. There's already a video which will be down in my description where I go over the changes in detail to clarify things and make sure you know what is coming. This one though is going to be my overall thoughts after multiple discussions, time to think about it and more overviews on just kind of what to expect. Is this a good or bad thing, etc. We're going to jump right into it. So first, jumping into the Nodewar selection screen on where you choose your region. I overall think this is a positive. There's obviously pros and cons to this, and I'll go over some of those as well. So Balanos versus Serendia, Medaya and Valencia, and Kama and Calpheon. So with this, the purpose of this, in my opinion, or what I'm guessing that they're trying to do here, is try to break up politics or cartelling, either or. So politics is where you have people set up a fight, right? You have two guilds, Guild A and B, and then on the opposite side will be Guild C and D. They set up a 2v2 on whatever node it might be. Let's say it's Ankado or it's Northern Plains of Serendia. They drop as 4 people, 2 on each side of the map usually. They clear everyone else off of the node and then they fight each other. A lot of this is public if you're on the right discords, but it's obviously not public to everyone. I think this is overall a positive change because a lot of the fights ended up pulling away from a lot of the fun that is in BDO. A lot more organic content tends to be what's fun, and those politics is what pulls it away. Those politics, though, are the positive reaction or the reaction to what is called cartelling. So what cartelling is, instead of having a 2v2 set fight where they clear the node, where people can get brought into the fight, they can get included, etc. What cartelling is a group of, anywhere between 2 to whatever amount of guilds. They drop on a node, they clear everyone off, but instead of fighting afterwards on organized teams, like in politics, instead what they do is they just hand it off. So they say, okay, it's Guild A's turn today, you get the node, come kill all of us. Tomorrow it'll be Guild B's, the next day it's Guild C's, etc. It's not very healthy for the scene. It kills all real organic content. They just zerg everyone. It's not fun. A majority of people don't like it. This dissuades both. Next, we have the player caps and gear caps. So for the player caps themselves, I already have a forum post on needing these to be lowered. Overall, it is 35, 70, and 100 for the 3 regions or 3 region clumpings, whatever we want to call them. I'm just going to call them regions. For the sake of keeping things easy as well, T1s will be Balanos and Serendia, T2s will be Medaya and Valencia, and T3s will be Calpheon and Camel Sivia. With this, though, it's 70 and 100 is way too many people for T2s and T3s. Again, there'll be a forum post in the description to get these lowered. But worst case scenario, if these do not get lowered, I do not think they will kill the scene. And I'm going to explain this in detail as we continue along as well. But basically, if they do not lower the T2s and T3 number caps, everyone is going to compile into T1s. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's not the optimal solution, but it's not that bad. So the reason why I don't think it's that bad is because it's now going to include everyone in sort of like a giant battle royale rumble fest where everyone is PvPing together, everyone is fighting, and all of the scene is located in one spot. T2s and T3s may still be occupied by snipes, whether this be real guilds trying to get a siege qualifier or whether this just be snipe guilds trying to earn a little bit of money. There is a lockout system though. If you do not get 100 kills and deaths before you die, you are locked out. So be careful. Granted, your stick can't die. It's just until the end of the time. So if there's a stick on a T3 that 2 guilds are fighting for, and one of them doesn't get the 100 kills deaths before it expires, whether it be 10 minutes or 60 minutes, they get locked out for the week. It's going to be near impossible to get locked out unless you don't show at all, in my opinion. Going down to the gear caps, we have Balanos and Serendia looking around Balanos siege caps as of current, and then we have Medaya and Valencia looking, I believe, like T4s, which a lot of people dislike, but some people do like. And finally, Calpheon and Kama are uncapped. Personally, I think Medaya and Valencia should be uncapped. And then what they do is they make Medaya and Valencia probably about 40 people. So it's a very small step up in terms of players, but it is a large step in terms of gear, and people can jump into uncapped content whenever they feel like it and go back and forth. Some days they have a lot of geared people, some days they don't, whatever it may be. Alpheon and Kama still needs lowered, probably till about 50 to 60, as in the forum post, but having it be uncapped is all right. Now, if they were to keep this capped content, I'm not necessarily against that. I think that also works as well. But if they do, they need to change this cap because T4s are horrible. Maybe old T3s or current T3s, but do not have it be T4s. Continuing to scroll down as we go through the list of items. Again, I have a full overview of how this all works. I like that it's region based. I like that you get split randomly between the two sides. Again, it disrupts cartelling and politics. That's really good. The way that the regions scale to the amount of guilds is also very, very good, right? If the Nodewar scene explodes in popularity, maybe COVID to Electric Boogaloo, then that's great because we're going to have a lot more places to fight over. And it's not going to be it shouldn't be as clusterfucky until the very end. Again, though, let's say it's, finals time for college, for university and high school and whatnot for students. Then if the game slows down a bit, it'll also scale down with the players. So it'll always feel good for the amount of nodes, in my opinion. Continuing to go down, the fort scale, I think this is fine. Realistically, I think instead of having it scale per node, or maybe you have it in both ways, it should scale on T1s. A T1 level 5 should give as much as a T2 level 1. Does that make sense? And then a T3 level 1 would be the same as a T2 level 5. So the higher you climb in tier, the more money you get. Continuing to scroll down, this UI looks nice. There's nothing wrong with it. Continuing again down the line. The worst thing, in my opinion, in this entire Nodewar system is the done mechanic or the win mechanic. You win and you lose, or you lose because you win. You win because you lose, whatever you want to say. No, it's you lose because you win. So if you take a node, or if you take a stick, whatever you want to call it, you're done for the day. You win. You get a bag, you go home. I think this is awful, purely because you're not encouraging people to win until the last second. You're encouraging people to farm and not actually play the objectives that you want them to. Instead, what I think would be better is that if you get a node, you get an extra bag. So every war, no matter what, is 60 minutes, and however many nodes you capture up until the end is how much money you get. So you're rewarded for being strong, you're rewarding for playing the objectives as you're supposed to, you're rewarded for winning as it should be, and you get the PvP content along with it. Maybe this is just a difference of culture between us and KR, but I think NA would really appreciate, or North America, probably EU as well, would appreciate if instead of it ending, you just get an extra bag per stick win. Scrolling down, this is just the list of all the nodes. Don't care about that for this video. Campsite, fantastic change. You can now have a campsite during Node Wars. The only thing I'm concerned about is that you're going to place these down and people can't build things around them. Resurrections. Spawning in safe zones is okay, I guess. It's going to make some sticks really hard to take, and it's going to make some really easy to take. It's got pros and cons. There's not much else you can really do. The second worst thing in this entire Nodewar change is cannons. As somebody who is the flex lead of a top 3 guild in North America, holy crap, this sounds horrible to do. Basically, you can buy cannons at a guild military supplies manager like you can with rebuild kits, and you can just plop them down. So if I run up to a cannon, I see the guy that off the cannon, he V's into a safe zone, he waits till I leave, he places his cannon down, he's right back to firing. Or worst case, he's firing right near a safe zone, he sees white dots coming up on the map, he steps off of it, he steps into the safe zone, crouches down so no one can see the shot, somebody kills the cannon, he pulls right back out and continues firing away. This is awful. Screw this. Go back to the buildings for them. Continuing to scroll down. Flame towers, hawachas, elephants, and flags. For the sake of this, I'm going to assume that these are a typo, and they're supposed to be 50 million silver, not 500 million. Because if they're 500, this is weird and horrible. If they're 50 million, sure, they're fine. With it though, hawachas, FTs, elephants, and flags, I would have really liked to not see these buildings back into the game. But I understand their purpose as well. Realistically, I think it'd be better if we just got rid of the 2 upper annexes. With that, though, I don't like that you can place them anywhere. I think you should be able to cook a flag anywhere. and then you can build the other 3 around your flag. This gives um, a double-edged sword to placing your flag close to the enemy base. By placing it close, you risk losing all of your buildings, and by placing it far, you have to run farther to get to their base. That's the pro and cons, pretty simple. New installation mode, looks pretty comfy. I like it, positive change. Occupying a base, you get a bag, you get drop rates, pretty fine. Continuing down a bit more, the personal rewards, as long as you capture a stick for being whatever for this, I think it's good. Personal rewards for performance based on objectives is awesome. Continuing to go down a bit more, a couple changes we don't really care about. We can skip most of this. Oh, castle. So something that I really like that's being changed is how castle works. So or I guess the castle's not changing, but everything else is. So currently, if you are in castle, you can only war twice per week. In this new system, you can also only war twice per week if you're in castle. A very bad change. It's going to make it so nobody wants castle, which is again the opposite of what you want your players to do. You want your players to take the objectives, you want your players to win, and that pushes them away from it. Especially, and don't change this part, do not take this wrong, do not change this part. If you do not own castle, you can win 6 times a week, as you should be able to. If you're in castle, you should be able to win 6 times a week and hold castle. So theoretically, you should be able to get a bag if you war 7 days a week, 7 times a week. 6 for Node War, 1 for Siege. It's kind of ridiculous. It's not that way. I think being able to get more than 3 bags a week is a very positive change. I think not being able to get 7 is kind of silly. Continuing down, we have the War of the Roses scores for capturing said points and castles. I assume this means War of the Roses is coming back. Thank goodness, because War of the Roses was so close to being good, and I really enjoyed the content. Outside of this, not too much in terms of the specific changes to go over. And then obviously the new music, which is fire. But with that though, we're going to go through just a kind of summarization of what I think about these changes. Overall, just a TLDR, too long didn't want to read. Good changes. I think this is positive for the Node War scene. Is it what we wanted? No, not at all. This is not what we asked for in any way, shape, or form. Not. Is this better than what we currently have? Yeah, I think it will be. I think it will be. I think the worst part of it is it's going to really disincentivize player progression with gear, because it's going to probably just be the T1s if they don't change the player caps. If they do change the player caps, it's pretty good. I think the secondary issue with it is that winning means that you get out early. That's fine for the reason of such, right? If you are in a competitive PvP guild who is looking to PvP, you don't have to capture a stick. You can run around and farm people for 60 minutes if that's what you really want to do, looking at you, Cho Nation. And that's perfectly fine. If you are wanting to get the bag, if you're wanting to fight for an objective, if you're wanting to get stronger, get your guys more gear, get yourself more, wins, whatever it might be, you also have the option to capture something early at the 10-minute mark, or try to push your luck and push as long as you can. Because the longer wars go, the harder it will be to capture a fort. The reason be, at the start, let's say it's maxed out, right? There's 30 guilds and 15 forts, 2 to 1. At the very end, let's say there's 1 fort. There's 16 guilds for 1 fort. Your odds aren't very good, even for a very strong guild. So keep that in mind as you go along with this if you're a GM, advisor, shot caller, whatever. Overall, it's not what we wanted. Again, it's not what we asked for, but I think this is a positive change in direction, because the current way that Node Wars are sitting, they're going to die. So this has changed. This is something different. Maybe it'll spice up the scene. Maybe we'll see some guilds reemerge. Maybe not worst case scenario. One of the cases that what I predict personally is that they don't change the player caps for Medaya, Valencia, and Kelma, and Calphion. And instead, the entire Node War scene will compile into the T1s, the Balanos and Serendia 35 mans. With this, a lot of the bigger guilds, such as Corrupt, Enemy, Cho, Digital, Black Rose, Ventus even, are going to have a really, really big issue where they have 35 people that can war, but they're having, 40, 50, 60, 70 plus people signing up. And what this means is that a lot of people are going to start dropping guild. They're going to want to make their own guilds because they're not going to be able to get into wars, depending on how the guild does it. If it's first come, first serve, it's going to be hard to get in. If they handpick, oh my, it's going to be really hard for a lot of people to get in. So what I see with this, maybe some preemptively, maybe some really quickly into the scene or the system, maybe some take a bit more to do so. I see a lot of the upper guild splitting. The Cho from Chomi's, Digital from Black Rose, and Corrupt from Enemy, Ventus from Shameless, etc. A lot of these guilds splitting apart, staying 100-man guilds or climbing back up to 100-man guilds to just war on these 35s. It's what I predict. It's what I really, really see people doing. I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing because realistically, the scene cannot support 150-man guilds. So everyone getting split up is still able to war just fine, especially since a lot of the back end is taken out. You don't need a cross-commer anymore. That's a really big one to fill. You might not even need a flex lead anymore. That's a big one for a lot of guilds to fill. You don't need a defense lead anymore. Again, another leadership position. All you need is a caller. They don't even really have to be good at macro. They probably just have to be decent at micro, right? Hey, we need a flag down. We need some basic buildings down. Maybe you do need a defense lead for that, but you probably could just assign individuals to do so. Instead, what you do is you have your caller, and they just run it. They just run down mid. It's like ARAM, right? It's a good time. It's easier to get into. It's a lot less of a learning curve. What you might also see is a very high death rate of T1 and T2 guilds as of now, just due to the fact that they're going to get into this. If they're fighting, again, Cho, Digital, Black Rose, Enemy, Corrupt, Split, they're going to get ran over. You're going to see a lot of these guilds quit, and a lot of these players retire or quit themselves. I think that's unhealthy for the scene, which is why I am fighting to try to get the caps changed for Medaya, Valencia, and Calphion and Kama. Again, forum post link in the description. With that, though, a really quick snapshot of what I think. I think it's an overall positive change. It's not what we asked, but it's definitely a W. There's some small little changes they could do to make this thing go from a W to the best thing we've ever seen for Node Wars. Player caps, rewards, and not getting kicked out of a war as soon as you capture a stick. Those are my 3 major things I would like to see. Whether they go through this with the system or not, though, EA needs to do some balancing. Wink, wink. I don't have anything else for this video. It's just a quick little thoughts on the entire system itself. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, please. It's free. I really appreciate it. We have patch note videos every Wednesday for live and global labs every Friday as well. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/JONNEYFIVE. Every Friday is the Nodewar Podcast. And we also have Twitch streams randomly throughout the week, bot reviews, AOS, Node Wars, etc. So thank you once again for watching this video, and I'll see all of you guys later.